Hi everybody, how's it going? Another episode of Facecheck. Oh, week 3 in the books. Man, what a week! What a week!
Dominate crack.
What my emote?
I'm surprised that one got approved.
That's such a good emote, bro.
It literally has.
One.
It just looks like drool on the side of your mouth.
If you zoom in on it, it was literally just like a cracked out frog. Holy fuck! How the fuck does that get approved?
What do you mean? It just has some red eyes and there's a little bit of smoke.
Oh, you have IWD Reddit as well. That's very appropriate right now.
Yep.
For those of you that will watch this and not have the context, Dom is getting bullied by Reddit for bullying Ryoma because Dom's a big bully.
Yeah.
Dom single-handedly ruined Ryoma's reputation in NA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I've noticed about this whole like Ica and Ryoma thing is that like they're not at all responsible for like their level of play. It's always somebody else. It's like yeah. So Ica like took a job and entered the whole split, but can you really blame him for his actions? Like it's like wait, what? Like yeah, yes, maybe.
Once I look at the average salary for LCS players, no, I can't really blame him for taking a job in LCS and inting it.
I think people forget. There's a line, right? Too far obviously is too far, right? Where you're making personal attacks. But what we try to do and what Dom normally does is make posts on their play. And that's really what it is. You sign up for that portion of the gig, whether you knew it or not, when you become a pro player, right? There's criticism, there's fandom. So people want the best player for their team. How do you figure out who the best player? A lot of analysis and talk shows and figure out what the best way forward is for that team. And if a guy's not fit for it, they're going to get called out for it. And that's part of the issue.
I'll give legitimate feedback, but first a joke. I think people are mad that you flame Ica and Ryoma because it's self-insertion. Like, that's how it would look if an average Redditor played an LCS and you're flaming the average Redditor. So
I thought you were saying that I was inserting myself into like LCS.
Yeah, Dom makes every perfect play, so why can't this mid laner know exactly when the ganks come?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and the big thing is, like, if you really think Dom or me or anyone like who does analysis on LCS is like full of shit, you should do like a post and you should do like a well-documented YouTube video on like why Ica or Ryoma is a top-tier mid laner or he's like a mid-tier mid laner, and what Dom or Loco or LS or whoever the fuck you want to put there is saying is false. Like, you should just do a video, like break it down and like have an actual argument instead of being like, I saw the Reddit thread. It doesn't have a lot of substance. I think that's the best way to counter like bad narrative, if that's your actual point of view.
The whole thing about Reddit that is so like disgusting is like it's obviously, so number one, this is just a disguised I will dominate hate thread, right? Like he says, like the whole title is content creators can really damage a pro's reputation, but I'm the only content creator that's referenced in the entire post, right? And it's clearly just about like Dom is ruining like Ryoma's reputation, right? So during like the whole post, there's only one part where he references Ryoma's play, and he's like, and the way that he the line that he says is like, yeah, sure, he might not be the absolute best mid laner that the world has ever seen, but he's not that bad either. It's like, wait, that's like the whole point that we should be arguing. He is a bottom tier mid laner, factually. Like last split, he was factually a bottom 2 mid laner. This split, he's probably third worst, right? Froggen's taking a dip. Froggen's probably playing a little bit worse than him now. And then Ica / like Insanity. The Immortals mid is probably worse than him as well. He's worse than every other mid laner in the league. The only people that you could contest would be like Demonte and maybe Powelter. I think Powelter has played pretty decently. Like he's carried a lot of games. And then when you look at Demonte, right, think about like his entire body of work. He had the really bad TF game, game 5, his 5th game that he played. Yesterday when he played against FlyQuest, right? He was one of the main people that was contributing to that win. They won through his split push. He made the game-winning play. Like they took down a top team. That's a fucking dub. The Echo game that he played well in, which was the other win that they have this season. And then you think about the game for C9 that Demonte played, where he played TF. They did the TF Nocturne thing, where they had a pretty strong showing into C9 in the context of like who they were playing against. That's a good showing. And then another game that stood out to me was the game that he played on Jace versus TL, right? So that already is like, so out of the 6 games, he's played pretty well in 4 of them. Ryan was played well in 1. Like, how are we even having this discussion? Like, people are so fucking delusional.
Someone also brought up Golden Glue, and to be honest, like I thought Golden Glue was playing better than Ryoma last year too.
Last split, yes, definitely,
100%. So
it's so delusional.
So I think it's.
And then another huge context is Ryoma should be compared against import because that's what he is. He's an import. If Ryoma is better than Golden Glue, better than Pobelter, better than Demonte, not saying he is, like that's great. But they're NA mid laner, so they're giving another import spot. Like Ryoma should be compared with top tier imports because like that's eventually what he has to become to really have a solid spot in LCS.
Yeah, that's the fucking truth. But that's an even like further deep point. I'm just talking like surface level. How is this motherfucker playing? Like he is one of the worst mids we have. I don't care about if he's an import or not. He's worse than all the NA mids that are in LCS right now. So, like, what the fuck? Yeah. Why is it wrong for people that do analysis and commentary to be accurate about their analysis and commentary? Somebody's got to be the fucking worst. Somebody's got to be bad in the league. If you have a 10-team league, there's going to be bottom tier, which is going to be your bottom 3, a top tier, which is going to be your top 3, and then there's going to be a middle of the pack. The people that are bottom tier are going to be bottom tier for a reason. And if I'm doing analysis, I have to tell you why they are bottom tier. Which I can explain, which is like literally if you watch any of my content, I'll explain for hours what this guy does wrong, like why this guy is not as good as other people. But these people just,
as long as you're not toxic, Reddit loves you and you can do no wrong.
Yeah,
sure. But Dom, when you break it down like that, people are going to realize he's not good and you're going to ruin his livelihood. Well, that's part of opting into being a pro. You got to stay at the top. You got to be the best. Otherwise, someone else will come and take your spot.
Being pro is great. You make unreal amounts of money. You play video games for a living, and it's going to come with some consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just think it's kind of strange that like both the times that we have these like really weird imports in our league that just end up being bottom tier. So like mid laners, I'm thinking about, maybe like an OC mid laner. There's just an OC GM that's making like the decision on them. And then for Zabutin, who was a French coach, he ended up just getting a French import mid who also didn't end up working out. And then the day that that French coach was fired, the French mid laner also didn't start in LCS that week. That's just like such crazy coincidences. But we'll just leave that for somebody else to decipher what it really means.
Yeah, look at Dom. Dom taking over the hosting duties now. Let's kick things off with week 3 with the thing that happened before week 3 started. It was the tweet from Immortals making the change from Zabutin and general manager Keaton. I did some research. This is the 3rd longest management duo in LCS since the LCS franchising spot, behind Cloud9 with Reapered and Team Liquid with Kane, who recently had changes with Jat coming on in. However, Romain moved on from Optic at the time, so there was a little bit of a management change there. But Zabutin had been there for the longest time, and it had been some stability and slow but steady growth forward and upward until the end of last season came on crashing down in this horrid start here for Immortals. So they made that change there at the coaching spot, and then wholesale changes with the whole roster, the whole academy roster coming on in. Insanity's win record skyrocketing to 100% before it plummeted back down to 50% as they went 1-1. But the best thing that we got out of all these tweets was not just this great graphic made by the Immortals staff, but Solo, who obviously has changed and is no longer toxic at all, came out with this great tweet. Ica reading this notification and the eyes backwards and back forwards. This was a day before Ica ends up becoming benched. But guys, this Immortals change, how do you feel about it? How do you feel about Solo still not being the cleanest boy anymore now that he's signed?
I love how it took 2 years of people that are close to Solo, like, parading for him or crusading
Free
for him.
Solo.
Solo's not toxic. Solo deserves to be on his spot. Like, Solo's great once you get to know him. In the moment he's doing well on a team and things are stable, he's like, yeah, fuck everything.
I mean, I don't even think that's that bad of a tweet.
I don't think it's that bad either. I thought it was hilarious. Solo had like 3 or 4 this weekend.
I think it's hilarious, and I think it's very in line with Solo. It's just so funny. For like 2 years, he just shut the fuck up. He wouldn't tweet anything. He would like try to give off the image that he's not toxic, and then once he's stable, he's like, "I'm gonna turn it back on."
And people are asking like, why is it toxic? It's because you're taking shots at fellow players that are also like vying for your livelihood. I think that's the only reason why I would take it toxically.
It's let's say feisty or whatever the fuck you want to call it. It's not toxic inherently, but it's just something that he was trying to like step away from. Like, I don't flame, like I'm not like this, and then he's just turning it back on.
Yeah, banger tweet #live evil. Immortals changes. They went 1-1. They did look different in that first game. The second game they got pounded as Xmithy's Ivern was not the play. But what did you think about the changes for this squad?
I instantly like the squad more than their other one. Like, at least this team looks like they have some fight in them. You know, like, sure, they got rolled over by Cloud9, but the other team is getting rolled over by every team in the league. So like, this has to be an upgrade to that, at least from my perspective. And then like, they actually beat Golden Guardians, which I don't think the other team would. Like, I felt like the other team was relatively inactive, didn't make plays around the map. That's like why Potluck was the only one that was getting any hype, because he was the only person that did anything on the team ever, right? And this team actually looks like they have some promise. Like, Insanity doesn't look bad. He looks better than I thought he would. And I think that's just something that's a little bit like understated in the community, or people just don't really understand, is that the academy mids are not like this just like disgusting tier where it's like, oh yeah, you can never play in LCS, etc. Like, Insanity's been in academy for 2 years. When you put him up against Demonte, like, he looked like an LCS level mid laner. Like, the skill gap is not as far as people think it is. So I mean, I just hope that other people are willing to like use promising academy talent. Like, I'm actually happy, like, I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but like 100 Thieves bringing Poom in, like, he's a player that, like, you know, he's like 1 KLP. He plays really well in solo queue. He played well in academy. He was good on 100 Thieves next. Like, players that look like they're promising, like, you don't need to spend fucking 3 years in academy, 4 years in academy before you're ready for LCS. Like, just put them in the fucking LCS. If anything, right now, with it being online, I feel like this is the best time to transition your players to like professional matches.
Another big thing is you grow a lot in LCS. I think like having real stage experience, like we're talking about the whole Corona stuff, you don't get actual stage experience, but playing in important games and being in contested spots and being in high pressure situations, that's where you up your game. Like, because you can't replicate being in high pressure situations. That's why you have scrim gods, like people that are great in scrims and can't perform on stage. The best way to get over that is to play actual games on stage and get better at doing it, like being good when it actually matters.
Yeah, and I think that there's like a really false perception where they're just like, oh yeah, like all players need time to get used to playing on stage. I mean, there's some players that just have like the confidence where it just clicks for them, that are just good on stage, like instantly, right?
Stardog on his very first LCS game, we were versus TSM, and he landed
Flash Cocoon.
Prediction Cocoon on Yellow Star to start his entire career. So that was a player that just went off the moment he started playing on stage.
Yeah, like there's a bunch of players that could just play on stage. Acadian's first LCS game, he played really well in. He played a Rek'Sai game, had like 2 kills in the first 4 minutes of the game. Like, just, yeah, he was shitting on Inori at the time, who was an LCS jungler. Like, it's such like a weird narrative. It's like, yeah, because there is a small portion of people that like crash and burn on stage, people just think, oh, well, like everyone just needs stage time. It's like, yeah, just throw these like, this is the point of franchising, right? And even more in summer, like spring split doesn't matter at all, right? Because of standings, there's no championship points anymore, so spring doesn't matter at all. And summer, 8 teams make playoffs. If that's the case, you have so much like time to actually see what your best roster is. Not enough teams are like swapping in players that when their teams are underperforming. It should be very natural for people to be able to like see what their best 5-man roster really is and try things out on stage. I mean, and I guess from recent examples, like Johnson and Tactical, they both looked good in their first LCS games. Like, they both look competent. I just think that that's like such like a fucking myth. And I think that really holds NA back because people are afraid to like put these people in positions where they can actually succeed.
Well, I feel like we had a good incubation period for a lot of these players that we're talking about. Insanity, Johnson, Tactical. I do think like 2 years back, our academy was really dog shit. Like the start of franchising, I remember some of the academy teams outside of Cloud9, like it was washed up LCS players and amateur players that never really even have been in competitive environments. So I do think there is like a cycle of things. Like as Academy gets better, as that system gets better, we should be constantly churning out talent. But for the last 2 years, like LCS did really have a shitty amateur system.
Well, I mean, sure, but like even if you look at like the academy, there's a lot of LCS players that are like washed up LCS players that are in academy. So if you look at a team like EG, right, like 4 of the people are ex LCS players. You have like Brandini, or I think Brandini might have left now, but like it's for last split at least, it was Brandini, and Deathly and Matt, like a bunch of washed garbage LCS players, right, Digon?
Fuck you.
Never mind.
I was like, hey.
All right, so they have like, you know, LCS players that have had like some experience, and sure, those players might beat your team of rookies. That doesn't mean that if you take 1 or 2 of the rookies and you put them with people that understand the game, that know how to win, they won't perform. So. That's just how it is, you know. Like you winning academy is not everything. It's not like, oh, we have 5 rookies that didn't beat this team of washed up veteran players. Well, all 5 rookies are not ready then. You know, it's just not how it works.
Going back to like the Immortal situation where they let go of Keaton and Zabutin in middle of the split, what do you think about that?
I mean, yeah, like look at how bad Immortals is. What? Team is terrible, and then look at like the decisions. Like
training.
Well, it's just like, okay, the Xmithy signing is one thing, but like if you have Xmithy on your team, you're benching Xmithy. The person, like Xmithy's salary is probably, besides for Soaz, he probably has more salary than the rest of the team combined, right? So you have Xmithy starting, or you have Xmithy benched and Potluck starting, and then you have Altec and Gate over Apollo Hakaho and LCS. Like that can't be right. And when we saw these players come back to LCS, the team instantly looked better, right? So you just tell that the team was mismanaged. Like the talent just didn't have the ability to succeed, because he just broke up the team, put random players in, and like he just didn't know who the players that would perform the best in LCS, like who they were, and like where they should fit into his system. Like it was just a flawed system from the beginning, and you have to give him the blame for it because he's the one that put the whole thing together.
What's your take, Daniel?
I think that I was looking at the, is it Valiant? I almost kind of want to say Valorant. The Valiant and the Immortals group post. They posted June 23rd that they were doing a restructuring of the team. And I thought it was just more of the Overwatch and the Valorant side of things. But as well as they then made the move on Zabutin later on and Keaton later on. And I think Keaton joined as like a team manager and then moved up to general manager afterwards. And I think that's a lot to tackle as a player, especially when Roman joined Immortals and then left within a year. Like he left within a year. That to me, I think sets back a team and sets back an org. And it reminds me of the time when you and I were on Golden Guardians, Loco, when you left. Because Loco was kind of the architect of what we were going to do at Golden Guardians. When you left,
I had different ideas on the roster.
The team lost direction. Like already, this wasn't the roster that you wanted, but it was a roster that we got, and the structure kind of like lost, right? The infrastructure of how a team runs. So I think it took them a little while. They had time to prove it because Keaton had been in that position for 2 years, and it didn't really pan out. And with this kind of a start and knowing that you had a team that could compete in the spring, I think it all compiled up to moving on from Zab and from Keaton.
So Keaton, I actually didn't really like as a person. When we were both competing in Challenger Series, like we butted heads a lot. We smacked him around. He was on United. And so I just had no respect for the guy. And then later on in like, I would say like 2 years ago, I crossed paths with Mal. So he used to be like head of operations back on Immortals / whatever they were called, Optic Gaming. So he's the current VP of esports at 100 Deep. And he was talking to me about the Keaton situation because it was something like completely unrelated. But he was talking about how initially Keaton wasn't very good at his job, but he learned a lot under. And he would say Keaton is one of the better GMs in one of the better GMs in League of Legends and franchise. So that's just one like executive word on things, but it's really hard to judge GMs without actually being in the team and talking to people that worked in it. But Malk is someone I respect and someone whose word I will take on So yeah, apparently Keaton was doing a good job on Immortals, like around the time that Mach was leaving, and he felt good about like the direction that they were on.
Yeah. So I think we've talked this one into the ground. So Keaton Zabutin out, Immortals new roster 1-1. Oh, this was the last question I posed. Is there a player from the beginning of the season starting squad that you would insert back on in? Alorum was someone that I had thought of because Soaz is the import. He has a lot of experience, insane amount of experience. Alorum, I looked it up. In total, on LCS, has had 9 games. Every time he gets in, he wins a game and loses a game, gets benched. Wins a game, loses a game, get benched. And he's never had a full season. And I thought he looked good in the win. He looked bad in the loss. Insanity, I think, is a needed change. But everyone's talked about Potluck. Does he replace Smithy here? I don't think the bot lane changes. So I would look at the top lane in the jungle, possibly.
I think you just keep the whole team. The whole one that's playing right now.
There's definitely like a squad element to it. Like they moved the academy team all the way up. And then I'm sure like they also have like little dynamics when the LCS players feel wrong that they lose their squad. And how to explain? There's definitely cliques within teams, especially when the academy team and the LCS teams are very close in skill level. The academy team thinks like they should be having the spot. LCS team thinks they should be defending it. So you come together like, hey, like we want our spots back. Hey, we want to defend our spots. So I do think it'd be hard to mix up the rosters.
All right.
Yeah. I think the only person that could potentially fight for a spot would be like Soaz, maybe. That's about it. Yeah. I think you could put Soaz potentially because I feel like Alorum just doesn't give you much firepower or anything over Soaz. Like I feel like, you know, Alorum is not known as a carry player. Like he plays Urgot. That's like his most carry-esque champion. You know,
he played Malphite. He played Malphite today. He flashed over the wall and punched him in the face.
Yeah, no, I mean, like he's a tank player, right? But I think Soaz should probably be a better tank player than Alorum. Like I would assume. Like I would think that would make more sense. And then I think that Insanity is more upside than Ica, so you leave him in, and then you just like run it back with like your old Immortal squad. So Apollo, Hakuho, Smithy, Soaz, and then you just have the mid lane replacement and see how that team does.
I hope they give Alorum a little bit more of a chance, but I like the way that you think as well. All right.
One more on this. Like, did you guys see Treach's tweet? He was talking about how there isn't a big difference between the LCS and the academy teams. I'm not gonna lie, like I don't watch academy, so that's something I can't judge at all. Like, do you guys have more info on that?
I will say that individually as players, there doesn't seem to be much of a difference. So I don't watch academy either. Really, I mean, I watch some academy, but not enough to actually make like fair judgments. I don't watch every team, but I will say that like individually, like when I play with these players in solo queue, I think there's a lot of like academy players that are just like able to go toe to toe, at least in the early portion of the game and like laning. They have like the same skills as LCS players, or even more skills. Like, so for example, if I would much rather have Poom on my team than Stunt on my team when I get into a solo queue game. Like, that's all I'm saying, you know? So
I think I still look at it from a traditional sports kind of point of view. Every year, whoever wins the college national championship, it's like, oh, Alabama or Clemson or whoever the hell it is. They're like, this team would shit all over the Cleveland Browns because the Cleveland Browns are trash. That doesn't feel like it equates to each other. I think I would almost always take the LCS team over the Academy team. I do recognize that there's more variance in League of Legends. So maybe if you only play one game, Academy team would win. But if you played 10 games, the Academy team would lose 8 of them.
Yeah, I think the difference is like you're taking a full team of like LCS, so in that, I mean, if you're taking a full NFL team, you're taking a bunch of people that already have the college experience, etc. Whereas like some of these teams that are like the academy teams, so to speak, have like former LCS players on them. Yeah. So like the rosters are more shuffled. So TSM, for example, who we're talking about there, you know, you had Lost, who played for a while in OCE. He has some LCS experience with I think Echo Fox.
Yeah.
And then you have Dokla, who played an LCS season, and he wasn't even like that bad. You know, like Dokla I had like 7th or 6th last season for top laners. So like you have a team like that, and then you have like, I mean, obviously Spica formerly played on that team, who's obviously looking fine in LCS now. You have Cat Evolved, who's a very promising mid laner that people think is going to make LCS like that. When I see a team like that, Treats, who's obviously played in EU, not an LCS level, but he played regional leagues, etc. When you see a team like that, I can believe that they would be better than like Immortals for sure. Like I really think that they would be better than that Immortals team we had in LCS, potentially even 100 Thieves and teams like that, because they do have like veterans on it. They have people that are professional players. And the amount of experience is not like massively different when you compare that to like a NFL team where every NFL player is going to be like pretty much more experienced than college players.
What if they had an open cup? Like Riot just had an open cup and it's just a random draw of academy teams and LCS teams at the beginning of every season or the off season or whatever. I think that'd be interesting.
He wanted like a Kespa Cup style where you have the established teams playing versus non-established teams.
This is what you do. You just have all the academy teams, just put them all in LCS, have a 20-team LCS, and then just let me co-stream every single day of the week. That's the fucking play.
More subs. All right. So that's Immortals, a lot of academy talk and young development talk. The big player from Immortals that got his first start and his first win in the LCS was Insanity. Congratulations, Insanity. He spent some time over at Team Liquid Academy, and Team Liquid had themselves a hell of a week, kicking things off with the put up or shut up match against Cloud9, and to be honest, had a pretty good first 15 minutes. Was it clean? No, because they gave up first blood, but they got the Rift Herald. They were able to turn that first blood into 3 kills for themselves. They had tempo on the top side of the map, and then Impact decided that he wanted to start trying out for the Olympics and sprinted it down multiple times, slowed down the momentum for Team Liquid until Cloud9 could force the Elder Dragon. They got all 4. They got the Ocean Soul, I believe, and the rest was history. Did I get that right, Dom? I think I got that right?
Yep. Pretty much.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone from TL yesterday about the game versus Cloud9, and I feel like every single Cloud9 game story, like from the opposite end, is the same. Like, we made like a really good play. Like we almost had it, and then we should have won the game. We knew exactly what we needed to do, and we couldn't do it.
I'm working on it, Luca.
Okay.
It's just like hope at this point, because you can't actually beat C9. Like none of the teams can actually beat C9 right now. So they're just like we felt like at a point we didn't get shit on the whole time, you know. So I think that's like, I don't know. It's just the main point that people are hanging on to is like, well, if we were winning for 5 minutes, maybe next time we could be winning for 10. And then if we play them 6 games, maybe we'll get 1 win. Like, I don't think that's actually how it works, but teams got to start somewhere. They got to hope, you know?
Well, that's what makes Cloud9 so good. They're so consistent about things. Like when it comes to team fight, or when it comes to like multiple people making a single decision together, that's where I feel like Cloud9 outshines a lot of the teams. And it's teams that are coordinated, like FlyQuest, Team Liquid. Like these teams aren't very... I do think they have good individual players, but they're well coached and they're a good team about executing their set plays. And Cloud9 just does it so much better and so much more on a consistent basis. Like I don't see Cloud9 mess up when it comes to like, hey, Dragon setup, hey, multi-man rotation. Where with TL, with FlyQuest, like they have like that odd person out, like not approaching the team fight from the same angle. Cloud9 always has 5 people thinking the exact same way.
Well, and remember, the other team that pushed Cloud9, I think, to the limit was Golden Guardians. So other than Golden Guardians, has there been a team that pushed him this season? When was the last time it felt like Cloud9 got challenged even this whole year, including spring?
Yeah, I mean, even Cloud9, like even Golden Guardians versus Cloud9, Golden Guardians kind of pushed them, but it felt like after a point, like even given like the comps, even when Golden Guardians was still holding on, it's like, okay, well, they have like the most early game comp possible with like this TF Nocturne strategy, and you just knew that like they were going to just fall off and become useless. Yeah. So contextually, it didn't feel like they could win. And I guess like TL, like even though they made that good play and they had an advantage, they just didn't use that window at all. Like they should have really, really, really fucking exploded the game in the next 5 minutes after that skirmish, which is what I like talked to Jensen and Niski both about this, which is like, okay, how does a 4-man dive or some play not happen when your TF has double summoners and ult up and the enemy mid laner is playing Zoe without like any summoners? Like, it should just be a play onto like a side lane. There should be a coordinated play, but there's just not that synergy for them to advance the game. If you had Cloud9 win that skirmish topside, they're exploding the game because like the next play is easier than that skirmish you just won. That 3v3 skirmish, that's a harder fight to win where you're like hitting Rift Herald and Broxah like gets nothing off and just dies. That's a harder fight to win than when you just have like the jungle with the agency to go anywhere he wants on the map. with TF ult being able to back it up, like that's a huge window that they just weren't able to capitalize on. And it's not necessarily like Jensen's fault that didn't happen. The thing that slowed down the game was Impact actually roaming. Like he's the one that got 2 kills. He had a shutdown on him, and he just like roamed. He knew he was playing weak side. Yeah, and he just like roamed towards like behind Dragon Pit and just instantly died. Gave a shutdown. Then Blabber was suddenly ahead of Broxton and completely snowballed the whole game more into Cloud9's favor. So like, they just need to be cleaner at making the easy plays, like not fucking up when they have that lead, because it's so, like in terms of momentum, it's so detrimental to your team to be losing fights like that during the game.
I wonder where like the TF strategy came from. There's just been so many teams playing TF and then playing TF with like one strong side lane and doing the 1-3-1 much as possible. This was not like a North American strategy, at least not in spring, but people are picking up TF so much now and trying to play this.
I think everyone just plays TF now. Like in Europe, everyone's playing TF too. I think they just consider it pretty strong. Maybe it's because of like nerfs to other champions.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like teams want to try and play this macro style. And I think yesterday, I know we're talking TL and Cloud9, but like Damonte was really picking apart the map with TF. Just kind of, instead of opting into these fights, just forcing the top lane split over and over again. But it doesn't seem like we get to see a lot of that all the time with TFs. It feels like they either snowball hard or they get so far behind it doesn't matter if they're splitting or not. They need to be with the team.
I mean, the core strategy is once TF gets strong enough, or once he gets to a certain point, it's really easy to snowball the game if you have a strong side laner with it. Like people are playing stuff like Jace. I forget one of the other carries that were being played, but you play it with strong side laners like Jace, like Aatrox, and you just 1-3-1 relentlessly. Who did TL do it versus, where they just kept pushing the whole time and they didn't allow the team fight to happen? Want to say CLG? I forgot who it was.
Wait, do you mean this week? Their game that they just played?
There was a game where TL was weaker in team fight and they were giving major objectives and they still won.
I'm checking.
But yeah, like the core of the strategy is you don't fight and you just fly lane forever, and it's really hard to play versus the 1-3-1.
Was it 100 Thieves? Rioma's
I think it was versus Dick. Like Chad is saying Dick. It was when they were giving up Elder Dragon, they were giving up Baron, but it didn't matter because that was just split pushing the entire game and never letting a team fight happen.
Yeah, if you're talking about this week, it was versus Dig.
All right, yeah. So that was the other game that I wanted to talk about, and that was part of Team Liquid's week. It was this Dig Fiesta where Dig almost came back and put him in the grave, and this is the game, right, that I think I had this highlight queued up. Hold on 1 second as we get to it. This is the game that disappointed Freak. Freak did not hold back his disappointment on his final call. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
Someone needs to show up. Why are you clearing minions in mid when they're ready to kill your base right now? Team Liquid instantly take the win over Dignitas.
Oh, was it when he flamed Frog in?
Yeah.
That
Not
was
the ending.
Well, the whole team.
worst play I have seen.
Ending.
So just right there, Freak saying, that was some of the worst League of Legends I've ever seen. Not holding back. And Freak sometimes gets a bad rap about whatever, but my man has watched more League of Legends than most people have ever played or seen or thought about. And he didn't hold back there. And with the base open, they just kind of TP'd behind and out macro Dig. Like it wasn't the greatest game there for TL. And the fact that, what was it, triple in Elder Dragon, or was it double Elder Dragon?
Double.
But
It was double Elder Dragon. That was ridiculous.
Dom, how do you feel about the situation? Because I do think like Dig played badly in the early game. That was like the whole Karma or the Olaf situation. Yeah, it was the Karma Olaf situation where they weren't getting ahead. But I feel like once it gets to a certain point versus split pushers and you lose enough of your base, game is unwinnable if the split pushing team plays it correctly.
Yeah, I think the game should be unwinnable, but it doesn't end there. So the reason the game becomes unwinnable is because they 1-3-1 you and they get like sideline pressure, and then they're able to just like get the next Elder, get the next Baron.
You can never chase either side lane because the game ends.
Yeah, exactly, which is fine, right? But they didn't even let it get to like an Elder situation or a Baron situation. They just literally walked out of their base, pushed mid lane. Like, why do you need to be pushing mid lane that far up?
Needs a CS.
It just makes no sense for them to lose the game there. Even though they theoretically they should never be able to win from that point. Like if a 1-3-1 team has inhibitors down, etc., you can't win, right? Like especially with champions like TF, you should theoretically never be able to win.
I think because it was last year when Ryze was really popular, or the year before, where Perk says something like, if you get an inhibitor with Ryze, then I feel like we already won the game because of like the backdoor potential. And Ryze has like his ult is like in a way shittier than TF. You can teleport your teammates, but you don't have the same kind of range. So I think it's the exact same thing with TF, and even worse because TF runs teleport and he has the second ultimate. So once your side laners are strong enough and you don't even have to get inhibitor, like you can deny fights the whole game, and TF pushes so fucking fast too.
Well, the way I see it is like, all right, let's say you have like different situations. It's like, okay, so if you're a 1-3-1 team, right? Like situation A will lead to being able to force situation B, C, and D, and then situation D you lose, right? They lost on situation B. So they lost on like the first, it's like, okay, they have the inhibitor and the 1-3-1, and then they're like, and it should be like, and then they're going to control Elder, and then they're going to control Baron, and then they're going to 1-3-1 with Elder and Baron, and then they're going to chip down like our inhibitors. We're going to be forced to take a fight on one side, and either they end the game or they win the fight because we have to just like force something. Like that's what should actually end the game. They just like lost way too early in the progression of what should have ideally happened. And one thing we've seen from LCS is that people can't get from situation A to situation D without mistakes. Like there will be some catastrophe that will happen in between like those plays.
But the weird thing is TF teams have been good enough where like once they get the lead on TF, like they've been snowballing it really well. Like that's like the thing that's been kind of strange for me because NA is not inherently a good split pushing region. Like that's one thing we suffer so much on, and like it seems like people are so good at TF all of a sudden.
Well, kind of, because like even in the FlyQuest versus Golden Guardians game yesterday, it wasn't like DeMonte. They just got the lead and then they just won the game with like the TF split. Like it was like a bunch of like, it was like back and forth, and then finally somebody got caught and they won the game. It's not like super clean.
It's better than what I expect for NA, like considering our history with split push.
Yeah, what your example reminds me of is teams that understood when lane swaps were a thing, and you would move the bot lane to the top side of the map. There was a very specific, okay, we swap here at this point, then the top laner or the solo laners will swap back, we'll take both towers, and then you have to be careful of a 3 or 4 man dive if the mid lane has pressure, and then once all towers on the sides were gone, then you get to this state. And if you didn't understand where you needed to be in the lane swaps, the game was over. A team was going to snowball on you, and like North America was slow to learn that, as everyone else in the region understood. So very much there was a process that needed to be understood by these teams, and it just wasn't in this case. And it feels like we're always slow on the macro understanding of things. Wanted to back out and down, take a bigger look at Team Liquid. 1-1. It was a sloppy week where they were able to escape by against the winless Dignitas. How do we feel about them after we saw them lose to two of the bigger teams that we expected them to battle with in EG and Cloud9 in back-to-back weeks?
I mean, I don't know. Like, it's just like the other performances that you have to really factor in there. I think that's like where you because if you say a team is really good, right? I don't know, like they can't have these types of like horrible mistakes in games. They can't have these like complete breakdowns in communication. Like, so I just, it's so hard to say that any team outside of Cloud9 is good because every other team in the league, EG, FlyQuest, TL, even Golden Guardians, everyone has these inconsistent performances where they do really well one game and they look like dog shit the next game. Like, it's just really hard there's no consistency.
Sounds like FlyQuest to me as well. FlyQuest kind of in that pool as well. Logo thoughts
they lost to Golden Guardians.
Logo thoughts on TL or FlyQuest? Which one?
TL.
Team Liquid?
FlyQuest gets a pass this week. We talked about FlyQuest through solo.
I'm a little biased for TL. It's funny to say because I didn't have like the best exit with TL, but I still talk to majority of TL people. They talk so much about potential and how much they look better in scrims and how they can't like show it on stage and how they don't have the same kind of stability. So I always like am expecting more out of it. And then like I see like hints of like, okay, they can build that lead, but like can they do stuff with it? So mine's a little biased from just talking to TL people a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to view them. I still don't have like a lot of faith that they're actually going to be able to beat teams like EG, FlyQuest, etc. Like for me, there's just something that I need to see them actually be able to like play clean games, and then I can think that they'll be like a top team. But they never have like these super clean games. Even the games they win, there's always these like massive mistakes, and it becomes a fiesta. Like, why is it in a fiesta versus Dig? And then also the other thing that scares me is I don't think Brox has been playing like very well. Seems like he's not like actually able to keep up with some of the better junglers in the league. I mean, you saw him get super exposed by Closer. The game versus Svenskeren I thought was a pretty poor Trundle performance as well. The Graves game versus Blabber that he's played, like there's always these like breakdowns, and then like he's not hitting clutch smites. Like I don't know if he's a top jungler. Well, I know he's not a top jungler right now, but I don't know if he can become a top jungler in this league right now.
Isn't that crazy?
His big thing, yeah. His big thing is mechanics. It's never been decision making. And I feel like TL laners like generally don't ever play well with jungle. I don't think Impact has ever been like I work well with jungle to snowball player. Like he's been like top die. Like he's been I solo kill top. I use my teleports really well. I'm a really good tank player. Like you don't have to worry about me. Jensen also has been like same kind of player. Like when I think Jensen, like he's famous for champions like Syndra, champions like Ori, champions like Cassio. Like when I think about Jensen, I'm like, he's someone that likes scaling. He's not someone you really gank for. Like when I think of people ganking for Jensen, like the thing that comes to my mind is the Faker situation where it's like Smoothie, Contracts, and Jensen getting 1v3 by Faker. Like I don't think of good moments about like, hey, Jensen is like great when you jungle for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think he had some good synergy with Blabber. I think that Impact actually with Xmithy, like in 2018, there was like some synergy there where it felt like they understood where like the lanes were killable. Even if he was playing tanks, etc., it seemed like he knew when to be like, hey, this is a free kill if you come right now. Or maybe that was just Xmithy identifying the situation.
That's I feel like it's way more Xmithy. Xmithy is a player that always has good synergy.
Well, I don't think so. Well, I mean, it doesn't look like Xmithy has any synergy on Immortals, right? Like,
there's no one to have synergy with.
I mean, you'd think that Soaz would just be like a budget Impact, you know? They'd be like the same type of like, all right, you're like a tank player that I can like gank for sometimes, but it doesn't seem like he sees those same opportunities then. So like, for me, I just think that their jungler, like you just need a jungler that's more like confident and will do what he thinks is good. Like, I think that's something that's so good about Blabber is just in general, Blabber just goes for like plays, right? Like constantly. Like he sees opportunities and he goes for plays. And maybe he goes for like 10% too many plays, but it's still better than the opposite of like not knowing which plays to go for ever. Like he's going to go for plays, like he's going to go for like 10 plays a game and 9 of them are going to be good.
Yeah, you'll take that 90%. The 10% that he gets it
easily.
wrong will not usually outweigh the 9 he gets right.
Yeah, definitely.
I just don't know how Broxah fits into this in like an ideal TL situation. Like Broxah's strength is like playing around strong laners, like doing good 2v2s. Like none of the TL solo lanes really play for that or like have never historically played for that. So yeah, I don't know what the good future of this team looks like.
Yeah.
One thing to give Broxah, just a little bit of props is that from everything I've heard, he is the hardest worker on the team. So
that doesn't matter. Like, oh my god,
Yeah.
Golden Blue is the hardest worker in LCS.
that was lame. That was unfair. I think Golden Glue was improving, but I think with him coming overseas, dealing with Corona, having a lot of that type of stuff.
I feel like everyone just likes to make excuses for Broxah because he's a nice guy. That's because he's like a nice guy. He's like a good personality in the scene, etc. It seems like he gets a pass on poor play more than like other people.
Maybe you're right. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why I'm doing it. Yeah, maybe that's why I have that bias. But
it's definitely a human thing. Like you want to cheer for people that are more likable, but yeah, I just don't think Broxah has good tools for him to do well in NA, and I also don't think he's the best jungler. So everyone loves Broxah, but tell me the good ideal situation for TL. So for me, the good ideal situation for TL is they do nothing early game, and they're good in mid game, they're good in late game, they have good macro, they have good team fighting. And it's not going to highlight anything that Broxah does well. It's going to highlight Jensen, it's going to highlight tactical. If anything, it'll highlight Core JJ, like roaming around and doing things early game. When I look to TL early game, and when I think about TL playmaking, I don't think Broxah, I think Core JJ.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it doesn't even seem like Brox is like a core playmaker for the team. Like there was some games last split where I was like, okay, he's like making the plays this game. He's the one that's like carrying the team. But like this split, it's like the Graves games that I've seen. Like he's literally just getting out farmed by Blabber's Lee as Graves. So he did less damage than Blabber's Lee, and he's not like contributing any CC to the game. Like when you're playing Graves, like all you have is damage. Like you actually have to like snowball the game. I didn't see like any of that. Like I don't think he invades enough when he plays that champion. The Lee Sin game, he just red started and he was like, just full cleared, right? The enemy Olaf. Acadian just got like double crab, etc. And it was up until like Acadian started making mistakes and throwing his lead. That's where Broxah got his advantage. But I never feel like Broxah like out jungles another jungler. That's the thing that I haven't seen. Whereas like you'll look at other junglers in the league. So for example, Closer. You see Closer out jungle other junglers. Like he's
really good in base. Yeah.
He's had some bad games to split too, right? He had like the Nilly game versus CLG, which wasn't that good. The Volibear game that he played earlier this week, I didn't think that was that good either. But the other games, I think he's like actually out, like he's going for plays, right? Like he's making the game fucked for the enemy team. Even the Golden Guardians game versus TL, he invades Broxah, gets his flash twice, steals his red buff. He's up 60 CS or 50 CS in the early game. Like that to me is like jungle difference. Like you can jungle diff people. And like Broxah has pretty good laners as far as like LCS goes, right? Like Tactical Core JJ is a really, really good lane, probably like top 2, top 3 bot lane. Jensen, one of the better laning mid laners. He's looked really good this split. I thought Jensen played extremely well in the Cloud9 game, even though they lost. I think he's like been very good in LCS. Impact's been like hit or miss, but like in lane Impact has at least been fine. I just want to see Broxah like actually like take over some of these games. Like you have the tools, you have the prowess, you have the pressure. Like you can actually go into the other jungler, burn the guy's flash, like try to kill like the enemy jungler, take away his camps, snowball through early dragon. Like you can do stuff. You can do more than he's doing. It feels like he's just trying to like control the game and like play around his teammates instead of like taking shit into his own hands and like winning the game himself.
I think that's a personality difference. When you mentioned Closer and then like the other person like that's been out jungling a lot is Blabber, like they expect a lot from their laners and they tell their laners exactly what they want. There was a comment that Golden Glue made when he was on the desk like doing analysis. He says something about, if you're not there where Closer wants you to be, you're definitely going to hear about it. And then like it's when they were doing like an invade on whoever the team they were playing versus. I don't see Broxah ever doing that to Jensen or Impact or Core JJ. Like, hey, you need to be here right now. Like, I want to make this invade play. I don't know him personally, but from all the things like that's been said on talk shows, like all the Fnatic content, like my image of Broxah is someone like that's a good guy that will listen and that will enable others. And that's not how you get out jungling situations. That's how you get like laners doing well and you're just following up on laners.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that that's something that you need more and more. Like when you think about like who are the great junglers right now, like in the West, right? Think about people like Selfmade. Think about people like Shadow. They look like they're playing like an alpha playstyle where they are forcing action and making people move to them. It looks like they're the ones that are playing their own game plan, and other people are adapting to their game plan. And I think that especially jungle right now, with the champions that are being played, you can play like the supportive playstyle, or like you can be more of like a laner's dog when the meta is different. If it's a Sejuani meta, if it's a like an Elise meta or something like that, like it's more okay to be like playing around lanes completely. But if you're playing something like Nidalee, if you're playing something like Graves in this meta, like you really just need like, because you don't have CC. Like the way you get your advantage is by counter jungling, by using the fact that you're 1v1 stronger than the enemy jungler, and you're not going to be able to like translate that into kills, etc. unless you have people rotating to you and like you're making a plan that makes sense. So I want to see Broxah have like more confidence in his like mechanical ability and like force more action when he's playing these champions, because there's windows here that I feel like he's missing. I feel like he's just missing windows for action.
A lot of pressure on Broxah to do better. In the jungle, a player that won't have the opportunity to do that is Meteos. 100 Thieves go 0-2.
Holy shit.
This is why they pay me the big bucks. 100 Thieves.
We don't pay you anything.
Getting 0-2'd yet again, and now left with 100 Qs. What the hell is going on? Why are they playing through Ryoma? You got Someday on there. You got. Why is Stunt still in? Why is Meteos the one getting benched? A lot of questions here on 100 Thieves. What do we make out of all of this, out of this week specifically, out of the performance you saw out of Ryoma? It looked good against TSM in that fiesta of a match on Sunday. And how did they move forward?
Like, to me, when I see that game, I'm not like, damn, that like Ryoma played super well, because like he got kills, or like when he got strong, it was off like TSM's like ridiculous base dive, right? Mm-hmm. But it's like dove the Aatrox, and then he suddenly gets like 2-3 kills. Up until then, it felt like Bjergsen was out roaming him. Bjergsen was like out pressuring him. Like it felt like it was definitely a mid difference in the side of TSM. Like it felt like Bjergsen was outplaying him up until then. And then even like once Ryoma got strong, it's like, all right, now like is your time to show if you're great. It's your opportunity to carry the game. He's just getting hit by hooks. He's not flashing blitz hook and dying in crucial fights. Like that's just what you need. Like you have to like, I mean, it's hard, right? Like it's not super easy to just like be trying to get as much damage off as possible, and then also flashing blitz hooks that come at you. But in reality, that is what you need to compete like at the highest level. You have to be able to do that. It's expected.
Daniel, do you remember the casters for that game?
No, I can look it up though.
Okay. Well, the thing I want to touch on, and then we can get into the more point about the Realma thing, the Meteos thing.
Pastry Azale.
Pastry Azale. You commented on it, Dom, where the observers were so fucking shit at the start of the game where they didn't check the crap fight that's going on. They didn't check like the hook and the flashes. Like one thing that's really, really big when both teams are playing Blitzcrank and Thresh is vision control. The entire game comes down to who has vision control and who's making picks, because the tanks on the team were like Volibear on one side and then Olaf on the other. So there weren't really tanks. So whoever gets grabbed is going to instantly die. I wish they go more into that. I wish they go more into like the Realma thing. I wish like they shut off vision, like show, hey, they have vision control right now. They're checking in. This is what we should be looking for. Realma has flash up in this team fight. Biofrost has flash hook. Like that's something we're gonna have to really watch out for. A big part of that game for me was Realma doing well in mid game to get the game back, where he's picking up kills in bottom. He's picking up kills because TSM's inting, and then in team fights he couldn't deliver because he's dying with flash up. He's not able to dodge flash hooks from Biofrost, and that was like the really big story. And like that's just not getting touched on at all. And I expect people like Azale to know. Like Azale is someone like that's decently rated, that knows the game well, and yeah, just talked about observers.
Just watch other mid lane. Like that's the thing, is like people just think that these things are impossible. They're like, oh well, that's unlucky. He got hit by a blitz hook. Like no, you have to be able to flash a blitz hook. Like,
you're a carry with flash.
Especially like he wasn't flashing a flash blitz hook. Yeah. It's like, wait, what? Like if you're not able to react with your flash to flash blitz hook with either your E or your flash, like you're just fucking up. And watch any top mid laner play Azir. Go watch some LEC. Watch Larson play Azir. Watch Humanoid play Azir. Watch fucking when Perks was playing Azir last split. Watch other people play the champion and see how they carry the game. Like Azir is so fucking strong late game, but he's just not making the correct plays, and people just give him a pass for some reason. I don't know. I think it's just because like now he's like an underdog or something. That people are like, oh, look, he's not as bad as everyone's saying. It's like, okay, yeah, like I'm not saying he's the worst mid laner to ever play the game. I'm saying he's one of the worst mid laners in LCS. That's my argument. Like he's a bottom tier mid laner in LCS. The only people that are worse than him are Ica and Froggen.
Yeah, it's frustrating because I know Azale knows this. Like a big part of like late game team fighting is checking flashes. Hey, I'm gonna burn my flash this team fight. The enemy carry won't have flash. So next team fight, like when Baron comes up, just flash and kill this fucker. Like he has no flash. Like people are spamming the flash timer, and like it's very, very important part of the game, and it doesn't get highlighted. Like why isn't this being talked about? Like going into this team fight, like this person doesn't have flash. Like Biofrost has been able to land flash hooks before. We should be looking for this, and it would help the general viewers like learn so much more about the game and focus in on what's important. And now there's this like weird storyline of Realma had an amazing game on Azir and he's just getting shit on.
But like he didn't have an amazing, like that's what's so weird is getting random kills doesn't mean that like you're playing super well. Like if the other team ints into you and you get like a quadra kill or something and you like carry the fucking game off the quadra kill, that doesn't mean that like, oh shit, you had like a pop off game. Like yeah, you'll get strong. That's how the game works. It's about like what you're doing with your leads and like how you're converting that. And yeah, I mean, if you fucking get strong and then you play like you're a carry, right? Carries can't die first in team fight. It's like Keith McBrief. Like the whole reason he got shit, it wasn't like Keith was like some dog shit laner who would just like get stomped on the entire fucking game. He would get leads in lane. He would be looking pretty good. Then he would get caught randomly and die and lose the whole team the game. That's why he got memed fucking endlessly. And he would die in like really bad situations, but like Ryan was also the type of player where you just don't have faith that he's going to carry the whole game. Then in like the other game that he played, like you saw like the TP in the fucking 100 Thieves game that they played on Saturday. The TP where he just TPs like
into the middle of the team, yeah,
into a whole middle of the team and dies. His team is making plays bottom, and he's not TPing with his team to make those plays against CLG. Like I think he got outclassed by Pobelter that game as well. And Pobelter is somebody who's in the middle of the pack of LCS mid laners that if he wants to get to that stage where he's considered a middle of the pack top mid laner, he needs to actually be able to beat players like Pobelter, beat players like Demonte. And we get to see him versus Demonte this week, so we'll see. Maybe he has a good game there. I mean, Demonte's been pretty inconsistent, but overall, like he's had so many like game losing plays that it's like, yeah, that's just not a star mid laner.
The other weird thing is they're drafting for Realma. Like the situations are where they're early picking, holy shit, Ornn, and they're giving Ryoma counters, which is like Azir into Orianna. When you go into these teamfight comps, it really comes down to how well your carries play. It really comes down to how well your mid lane plays, how well your AD carry plays. You have Someday on your team. Like, there's times where they're also putting him on non-factor matchups where he's an Aatrox Renekton matchup. Like, give Someday to counter pick and let Ryoma blind pick. Like, a really big thing with Ryoma was he's good at Zoe. That was like the one champion that he's fine at. And then he could be blinding Orianna.
Syndra too.
Yeah, people blind Orianna. Syndra's just not playable right now. Everyone's it's just permaban. But there's a way you can draft where you don't have to highlight Ryoma and he doesn't have to be the focal point of the team. But the way 100 Thieves are drafting, they're going into late game team fighting, scaling comps. And the mid lane is so fucking important in those cases. Like, why can't we have more of like Someday carry, but with like the mid lane? You can still team fight. Like, you can still blind pick Ori and team fight, but let Someday have the counter pick.
I mean, I just want people to do like a critical thinking exercise and wonder, it's like, okay, so if you have this team and you have two like people that are like the two best players on 100 Thieves, the two strongest people are Someday and Cody, right? Like, they're both like people that are considered pretty good within their roles. So if two out of the fucking 3 lanes are considered pretty good, why the fuck are they losing every fucking game? Like, why are they bottom 2 right now in LCS? It's like, oh, maybe it's because their mid jungle was a huge fucking issue. And then when you look at their mid jungle, it's like one of them is fucking up every time. I don't think Meteos is playing well. I think Meteos is playing pretty bad. And I was saying, like, this is why 100 Thieves is just not a team that I have confidence in, is because their mid jungle sucks. But the other part of that is your mid laner is like never able to carry. Like, there's pretty much, it was like either Meteos would int and start an objective before he actually had prio in his lane and they would lose, or Meteos would start his objective at a good time and random people would fucking die and then like they would just get behind off it. You know? Like Stunt runs it down, right? He runs it down and gets caught mid game, but that's not what's like actually losing them the game. Like, it's rare that like Stunt dies and it actually translates into something like big for the enemy team. It's just like, oh, he's dead again.
So I'm talking to coaches. What they told me was Meteos hasn't been great, but he's not in situation to succeed in terms of draft and in terms of mid laner.
Yes, but then they still bench Meteos for contracts. So contracts will be coming in next week. Why is that the move when everyone seems to be like, this? Well, I think it's
a combo move. I think it's a combo move. Like,
we haven't even talked about Stunt, but yeah.
Well, that's what it is though. It's jungle and support, because jungle and support develop some type of synergy. It's kind of
there's zero synergy there.
Yeah, there's zero synergy in this situation, but in general, right? Like I haven't watched Academy, but I assume the idea is that because jungle and support are the main 2 roles that control vision and decide like when objectives are started, etc. Like, they're like a little team, so that's why they're replacing both of them, is because they want to have like a completely, like, they don't want to have they don't want to break the synergy.
Duo. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they don't want to break the synergy of jungle and support, which I think is like we've seen before. It's like pretty important.
So Empire, who's like the EG head analyst, is in chat, and he said contracts fits better with the meta. Like, as someone that worked with contracts, like, he does play carry champions, and it is more carry meta. Like, he loves champions like Graves, he loves champions like Nidalee, like Lee Sin. Those are all up in his alley. So Olaf also. So yeah, it is like better fitting in that sense.
Yep, I agree. We'll have to see if teams actually let Trundle through versus 100 Thieves, because that was literally just the secret to 100 Thieves. They're like, all right, what happens if we just ban Trundle every game from Meteos? It's like, oh, well, then we get his like flip Olaf every time, and it just was never like super, super great.
Yeah, so to pile on the L's for 100T, this tweet also came out from Meteos after the benching. Pretty weird to hear the players on my team didn't know about or agree with the decision. All credit goes to Zixlol, Jungle Juice Lol, and Papa Smithy. Clearly, the people not on the team know what's best for it, and then followed up with, this is going to sound like a troll post, but just got word I'm being benched after week 3, summer again. Not sure why I expected anything different. Sorry. So it went the other way. The second one was the first one, and then you followed.
I would just say banger tweet, live evil to that. That'd be my response.
Is there? Oh my God. If things don't go well here for Juanito Arturo Garcia, better known as Contracts, is there a way back here for Meteos? Is this Contracts team now?
Well, he burned bridges. He hella burned. Like, why do you do this? Like, sometimes, like, I mean, I know I'm a baby too, and Dom's a baby.
Baby. As soon as you wound that one up, Loco,
in what way was I ever unprofessional with tweets? Like, when I was like,
okay, I'm not saying you're unprofessional with tweets, but
I never did shit like that.
We live pretty privileged lives. Like, we play video games for a living. We got to like make our own decisions. Like, we didn't have to go through college. We didn't have to go work like a shitty job. Like, we live generally privileged lives, and we have generally privileged take. And I think this was an extremely privileged take from Meteos. Like, it's not respecting the GM. It's not respecting like the work that other people are putting in. Like, it's a really shitty take.
Yeah, I think it's a really shitty take if you want to like potentially stay on the team. I guess
the only thing it's good for is ego. What else is it good for? Let me know what else is it good for other than your own ego.
Letting teams know that he's unhappy and maybe they could trade for me.
He can do that without having an ego in it. Like, he can say, I'm disappointed with blah, blah, blah. He can have a different statement. The way he made his tweet sound, the only thing that's like good is the ego part. There's no other part like where it's positive.
Well, I mean, it's like ego, and then also just like it's just turning his fans against the organization. So it's like it makes himself look better in the eyes of the community in some ways.
I think he could have done that better. He did it well last year. Last year, he did a really good job of getting the community to rile up on his side and attack 100 Thieves. And
or 2 years ago?
Yeah, or 2 years ago, however long ago it was. Like, this isn't a good job of riling up fans to attack 100 Thieves. I think the general consensus is going to be Meteos is a baby, not 100 Thieves management is incompetent.
Yeah. I mean, the easiest way to like show their incompetence is just like, let it ride out for a little bit. Because obviously if Contracts comes in and the team gets a lot better, then there's nothing you can even fucking say, right? Like, then he's just a better replacement than you. And honestly, like, I think Meteos has been having like a pretty rough split.
Yeah.
I've been fairly critical of him. Like, I think that he has just been not LCS level this split. And sure, there's like other reasons for why that could be the case. Like, obviously he plays with the support that is trolling 90% of the time. And then his like his mid laner like just doesn't have the ability to ever. Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's not even that Ryoma lacks firepower. It's just that Ryoma is just not, he's not somebody that you can really like count on. Like, it's not like, oh, we hit late game with the Zir. My Zir's 6 items. We just win now. It doesn't feel like that when you're playing with Ryoma. It's like, all right, Ryoma, remember, watch out for the Blitz Hook. And don't get hit by a GP barrel and Ori ult. Make sure you're watching the Ori ball and just be careful, man. Like, that's like literally all you're saying. And then it's just like, oh, you got hit by a blitz hook. Well, I guess we lose the game. It's never like a thing where you just feel confident going into the late game. When you play with like really good mid laners, you like trust them to be able to like fucking mechanically do whatever they want, like, or like whatever they need to do in a team fight to fucking output damage. Like, you don't go into a team fight with Jensen and you're like, yeah, like if he gets caught like that, it's a freak occurrence. When Ryoma gets caught like that, it's like Tuesday,
It's a day ending in life.
Scrims.
Yeah.
It's ranked scrims. All right. Well, I guess we feel
definitely different coaching for Bjergsen and coaching for Phoenix. I was very nervous when Phoenix had a lot of gold. I wasn't very nervous when Bjergsen had a lot of gold.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we feel confident about, we understand why this move is being made with the double swap. So Pume, how do we say his name?
Do you even know him? I mean, if anyone knows an academy player, can you talk more about him?
So he like came from 100 Thieves Next, so he played with like Copy and Tenacity and all those people, and he was like an amateur player. Grinded a lot of solo queue. He's like 1 KLP. Looked really promising. He's like kind of like a mechanical support player is what I would consider him.
Aren't they all? Isn't that how they all start? Great North American thrash.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, but like, I mean, that's just like, I like that though. It's like if you see a jungler that's like really known for his Lee Sin, like you're like, okay, respect. Like you play probably like the hardest champion. So he's mainly somebody that I just know from solo queue. He got put on Academy. Apparently Academy has been doing really well. They're the second place Academy team right now, 100 Thieves. So Contracts and Puma are the people that are getting the most credit for that. And yeah, like he's just somebody who's just been out here grinding. He looks really good individually, and they're giving him a shot in LCS. I think it's fine. I like seeing this. I actually really like seeing a player like Poom get LCS time. Like there's so many players where I'm just like, damn, like just put him in the fucking LCS and see what the fuck happens. Almost everyone on that team actually are players like that on the 100 Thieves next team. So Tenacity. No, I'm talking about the amateur team. Okay. I'm talking about the third team, right? Almost all those players I would love to just see like get opportunities and just see how they fare, right? Obviously, a lot of them are too young, but Tenacity, Copy, Kenvi, Poom, all 4 of them were really good. Their AD carry, I was like,
Isn't that Otto? Wasn't it?
No, it's like his name is like Jan or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I played against him yesterday actually. Well, let me find what his name is. His name is Jan 7. Yeah, he's like a Talia, like he plays like a lot of Talia bot, and now their support is Otto. who role swapped to support. So I'm not really sure.
Coaching the team, Otto?
No, Fallen Bandit's coaching the team.
Fallen Bandit.
The former CLG guys. I see.
Yeah. So anyway, my point is like that whole team is promising, and like I like seeing players like that are really talented, that are destroying the ladder, that look like they're really individually competent. Like I love seeing players like that get time. Those are the players I want to see in LCS. I was even talking to Grabs about it like a couple weeks ago, where he was asking me like there has to be NA talent, because like Grabs' perception is like NA doesn't utilize the talent that they have well enough.
It's not that there's a lack of it. It's just
He doesn't believe that there's no NA talent, and I don't. And it's not that there's no NA talent. It's just that like the way that we do our scouting and stuff, like we don't let the NA talent actually get a chance. We're like, no, like fuck getting one of these like new guys in LCS and seeing how they're doing. Let's just see how Gate looks for his 7th year in a row playing support. And it's like, I don't want to see Gate, man. Like, please just don't let me watch Gate anymore. Just get some of these guys that have talent. I mean, I've been watching actually more amateur than academy, and there's actually a bunch of players that look like they could be promising in amateur. And I just want to see some of them like start moving up and getting chances. You know, you have like Fire, who's another player who's really been dominating the ladder for a while.
Mash is this young talent killing it for FlyQuest.
Well, like I know, but like seriously, there's like other people that I think should eventually get chances, and they're just not getting them. So yeah,
it's not that NA doesn't have talent. We have way less talent than Europe, China, and Korea for sure. Like region per region, like we have the least talent, and we're also the worst about developing it. And our amateur scene is by far the weakest. Like our academy / whatever's under LCS, whatever's under LCK, LPL, LEC, you compare it, like LCS is by far the worst.
Exactly. So that's why, that right there is why I think it should be more viable to take players from like solo queue and have, because we know our amateur system is garbage. We know our academy system is garbage. Those things are not going to make players that much better. So that's why I think it should be a quicker transition for us. Like in Europe, it makes sense because their ERLs are actually competitive, right? So getting a player through that system is actually going to improve them. I don't think that those do that much for a player. I mean, we saw Johnson go pretty much straight from solo queue to LCS, right? And he was competent. I think that solo queue players should be taken more seriously in our region because those leagues are so shit.
I think I agree with you, but I don't think they go directly to LCS. They go directly to academy, and we just develop better academy. Like,
sure.
I will say, like, there's so many people in academy that are just there. The players are just there. The staff is just there. Like, I remember in 2014, 2015, all the coaches that I was working with were so hungry and were so excited to learn. Like, we're very happy to be part of esports.
Name some that made it. Name some that made it from that time. Was there anyone that made it from that time?
I mean, the people that I personally worked with, Parth, Dylan, D-Lin, they all were really fucking hungry and they wanted to learn. Like, they were always asking questions. They were always like going over VODs. Like, the culture is just not the same regarding academy. Like, I've socialized with the people going out, and I don't ever want to call out names, but there's just people that are chilling. Like, they're just
I wanted to name the positive names, not the negative names. But
the culture is just so different from what it was in 2014, 2015, where everyone's just grind, and like really happy to be part of esports. And then now people seem more content to be part of esports.
Yeah, because I mean, it's just way different. Like before, you needed to grind and be like at the top, or else you're like not getting paid shit, and your situation is not worth it, right? Now it's worth it to be an academy coach. Like you're an academy coach, you might even be making like
100K.
Yeah, you might even be making 6 figures, and you just like, maybe. And no one actually watches. Yeah, I mean, like, I just think that it's just way easier, you know.
There's just less of that. Like, I remember, who's the EG guy? The one that looks evil as fuck.
What?
Artemis.
Yeah, Artemis. Artemis is someone that, like, he does look really evil, but he's someone that like really grinded from what I know. Like, he went from collegiate to academy to LCS really quickly, and he was someone that was always just like hungry to learn and really wanted to be part of like top tier esports.
Yeah, and to be fair, for every Artemis, there's 5 or 6 other coaches that don't make it. So it is tough because there are only slots there. And now that you mention it, it does seem like a lot of those that were grinding in that time still have a gig because they were around, they have the experience, and the people that are in charge also were aware of them at the time. So it does kind of feel like, hey, look, I trust you. And it does feel like we're a little slow to adapt and hire not only new player talent, but also new infrastructure talent as well to get them in there and see if a new way of thinking, new scouting can come on in. Dom, you brought up a good point. about scouting itself. What are we doing now, and how do you feel like it can get better? What is the solution to the scouting issue of North American talent?
I mean, I just think that it's just like over reliance on the academy system. Like I stated earlier, like they just have this idea where they like scout players and they're like, all right, get them in academy, and then like academy doesn't fucking matter. No one watches it, and then it's just like a place for fucking talent to go die. Like instead of like for them to like thrive and become better.
No one cares about academy. Academy players don't care about academy.
Yeah, no, and that's like the thing that academy players. I've talked to academy players, and what they realize is it's like it's not really about how well you do in academy. It's like, or it's mainly just about like, can you look good rather than like your team like trying to be like the best teammate as possible and like learn how to play the game. You just have to like individually look talented, because there's so many players that you see that like come in as talents and then it's like they disappear. It's like, yeah, because we don't know, like no one knows what's going on in academy. That's why they disappear. Like how good, like everyone was hyping Revenge, right? How good is Revenge doing right now in academy? No one knows. There's not one person that watches academy, so no one knows how the fuck he's doing. So like our talents just go there and there's no point of ever showcasing, or there's no point of actually like being able to play well there, because there's never a showcase of academy. Like when you go to EU, right? Let's say no one watches regional leagues, and people still watch regional leagues more than academy. Let's say no one watches regional leagues. At least people watch EU Masters. So at least there's a tournament at the end where you can see who the best amateur players are in Europe. We don't have anything like that. Like no one watches NA Academy finals. No one gives a fuck. You turn on NA Academy finals, you're like, how many ex-LCS players are playing in this finals? Oh, you have Inori, Brandini, and Definitely and Matt. It's like, I'm fucking turning that shit off. I've seen these guys play before. Like, who cares about that shit? Like, it's just not the same. Like, there's no reason for people to watch it.
When I think about academy systems, I think of soccer, European soccer, and their B teams play in leagues with amateur teams or lower tier teams to fit it in and be like, hey, this is where you're at. And I think maybe there's a perception right now that people in charge, owners, commissioners, I don't know, I'm just speculating, that they don't want to know that, hey, look, the team participating in the one of the amateur leagues is just as good as one of our academy teams, if not better than one of our academy teams. But if we don't do that, as you said, there isn't a showcase, there isn't pressure to perform and constantly win and grow, and ultimately have some of these players in academy lose their jobs. Because if you do lose against an amateur team, it shouldn't be look bad on the org. It's someone you're learning. You're like, oh shit, the guys that we got in our org aren't the ones that we need. Let's look at this amateur team, see who's the focal point there. Does that address our issues? Okay, let's pick them up. Like, I think that would force a little bit of growth in the academy system to push them on up to the LCS. So, and
as good as franchising is in certain regards, I remember Challenger scene being way more hype and way more people caring about Challenger and way more people watching Challenger.
Yeah, because of relegations. Yeah, like that was like the main reason. Is like because relegations were a thing. Some of these teams would eventually get to challenge LCS teams. So you get to see them compete against the LCS team in the winter. And like, everyone watched relegations. I watched relegation. That shit's so fun. Imagine you get to watch 5 people just lose their job. Like that's so exciting.
The fun isn't the right word.
No, it is fun.
That
is
so
fun. You're like, oh shit, they lost their job. And you see them like all sad. You're like, yes. Like it just hypes you up, like.
Zoom in on the tears. Give me the tears. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no.
Thank you.
Like, look, 1 year of work for nothing. Like that shit was so fun, and I know because I played in that shit, and it was fun for everyone except for the people that are playing in it. I had to play in that relegation tournament one time. That shit stresses you the fuck out.
Dude, but fuck relegation. Holy shit. We beat MB in first round 3-1, and then we lost to Team Liquid 3-2, and then we lost to MB 3-2. Oh my god, we were 1 game off twice, and that's like fucking double lift, like boosting the fuck out of Team Liquid.
You weren't better than Renalift, and you weren't better than Seraph, right? Seraph was still in there at the time.
Yeah, but the later season for relegation was really fucking tough because even the bottom tier LCS teams had so much money and it was so close to franchising. Everyone was spending so much. Fucking double if playing in relegations. My fucking god, like the most decorated LCS player playing in relegations. Like
he wasn't most decorated at the time.
Yeah,
he was still one of the best. Double lift was still one of the best. That's like the double lift Bjergsen era where they're like dominating on TSM. Why the fuck is that fucker like playing in relegation?
Yeah, that was pre red buff killing double lift.
True. Imagine if one of the best junglers in the region got banned and then had to play in relegations. Like that was probably pretty unfair for cut. That was probably pretty unfair for Cognitive Gaming. Oh wait, he just easily smurfed all those. Wait, I qualified for LCS, got banned for a year, and then requalified to LCS. I qualified twice for that shit. Like, what the fuck?
But yeah, so I think that's a lot on 100 Thieves, the Academy system, our NA talent, and possible changes here for, I guess, Meteos and for Stunt, making way for Pume. Is it Pume or is it Pum?
It's I don't know. I've never heard his name pronounced. I've always just called him Pum.
It has to be Pume, right? Because of the E at the end. If it's just Pum, isn't it P-O-O-M?
Chat, help us out here. We're actually going to use you this time. We're not ignoring you. Is it Pum or Pume? All right, that's not even useful. All right, cool. That was stupid.
It's Poon, they said.
Yeah, thanks, chat. All right. Hopefully, I love my boy Juanito. Hopefully, he has a good game. All right. Last thing we want to touch on, we're just overall week 3 moves. So we talked about the whole Immortals roster swap. Dignitas also made the move from Viper to Lorlo, still searching for their first win, 0-6. I thought it was weird because after they won, I didn't watch that game. I had something else to do. But after they won, it felt like it took EG like 30 minutes to tweet out that they won. It was like this graphic or whatever. I was like, why isn't the game over already? So, but either way, Dignitas 0-6, making moves. How do you feel about Dignitas moving forward? And any other moves that we should expect to see?
So I have privy to information, which I leaked on my co-stream, but I can leak it again here, which is that apparently Dardoch and Phoenix are coming back this week. And I heard that Viper might come back, but like Lorlo played pretty well, so I'm not sure there.
Lorlo had a good Ornn game.
Yeah. So what I've heard is that we're gonna see Dardoch and Phoenix now.
Oh my god.
All right, we just spent 20 to 30 minutes talking brand new North American talent, and here comes the boys, Team Liquid Light, showing up in yellow. It's Dardoch, it's Phoenix, and it's Lorlo playing on the roster.
Yep.
Dude, as someone that made like a lot of mistakes in life and that definitely did not do things all the way to my potential, like one thing is like when you're doing badly and when you're not like improving, one thing that's really good is like taking a step back and looking on like where you're weak and like really improving on yourself. I feel like players like Dardoch and Phoenix that are really good in one area and that are really shitty in other can really fucking benefit from just taking a split off and like looking at themselves and improving, like instead of just recycling on bottom tier teams. I don't expect anything good to come out of this.
Really, I think that'll instantly be some fire. But like, I think that more than the Dardoch thing, like I think Acadian's been playing very bad recently, which is weird because I thought he was pretty good in spring. Like I don't know what happened this split so far. Like he just doesn't look like the same player. But maybe it's the pressure of having a replacement right behind him. Who knows? Like people have always said he doesn't play as well when he has that like person right behind, like chomping at his heels.
But it's not just any person. It's the same person from Echo Fox, from Optic, from TSM. It's the same guy. You can't shake him. You change your hair. You change where you go. You change your colors. Everywhere he goes.
Wait, it's not Greg?
Boy's right behind him. Oh, yeah, Greg. That's right. Greg was there, too.
It's not Greg anymore.
But Dardoch followed him at every spot. That's what I meant. Every spot Dardoch was eventually
had this relationship on Team Liquid, too. Dardoch was TL main team. Acadian was TL Academy.
Yep. Yeah. And now I remember that because you guys were trying to get me to play Academy. You're like, who the fuck is this hairy abs guy? Remember? Like,
oh yeah, dude, that hairy abs guy came and played, and then he leaked our picks to like, just ban XYZ to the other team. So I got the screenshot from the person he leaked it to, and then I showed Steve because like it made me really upset that he leaked it. So I wanted to fuck him over.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Nice.
Well,
thanks, Loco.
All right. Thanks for so Loco's not petty at all. Well, I mean, it's not really even petty. That's the situation.
Who here isn't petty? You're gonna say you're not petty?
Oh, I'm petty, but
Dom owns it. I don't think I'm that petty. I think I'm.
We're all petty here.
All right. Yeah, I won't argue that.
Anyways,
Dignitas.
Yes. I think that Phoenix actually will be an upgrade over Froggen. I just think that Froggen
more about Froggen than Phoenix.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, I still think that that's like what that team needs.
Dude, Phoenix's solution to not wording and getting ganked mid so much is I won't play mid anymore. I'll just play AD carry. My support will ward for me.
It's so crazy.
Get ganked, my support will be my support problem.
It's so crazy that he's like so much talent. He's had like such like what you'd assume would be a minor issue since season 5, and he hasn't been able to fix it.
Because he's giga stubborn. He's like Phoenix is from a pretty well-off family, and like
my family should ward for me. What?
1 second.
I don't know where you're going with this story. Look, Dom left. Dom gone. There we go. Dom gone.
Yeah. But when you're from a pretty well-off family, like you get to just do things you want without consequences a lot of times, and you become stubborn. I feel like Phoenix has had a lot of that. Like he just will not fix his problems. He'll say he'll work on it, but he feels like I'm good enough in this regard where I don't have to work on this. And he's been that way for his entire fucking career. You know, like the whole Mark G shit, like where he won't trinket ward. Like that shit is from 5 years ago. I coached him like 3 years ago, and he still had that problem. And he still had that problem last time he was playing for EchoFog. Like this fucker has had the same problem, and he just won't fix it. Like, how can you have literally the same problem for 5 years? Like you just won't ward. You're just so gankable. And Double F talked about it too. Like, when we were analyzing Phoenix and how we should best play versus him, this guy has never met a gank that he's not happy with. Like he will get ganked every single time. Like that's just Phoenix. Like it doesn't matter how good you are if you're just gonna get ganked literally anytime someone comes at you.
Yeah, and to back you up, every time we talk about Phoenix, you do commend his gameplay, you commend a lot of things, but you do harp on this same issue every time, every single time.
It's been an issue for his entire career.
He's still talking Phoenix. All right.
Still talking Phoenix?
He's still talking
Phoenix.
Phoenix.
Yeah, no, he just won't ward. Like he would just never ward.
This one a chat said incentive contract where every time you ward, like you get like money, or every time you don't ward, like they take.
You know, there was a time in season 5 where we looked at where we had like that was the first season where we had like a real like analytics team, I guess. And they gave us like stats back, and we had a meeting. And it showed how many pink wards people have placed compared to league average. And he had placed 4 pink wards in 18 games. Think about that. That means he buys a pink ward like less than a quarter.
Less than 4 games.
Less than a quarter of the games he played, he would buy a pink ward. It was too insane. I was like, motherfucker, how the fuck am I supposed to play the game? I'm like, how are we winning games?
That was OP pink ward, by the way. That was invisible pink ward.
Yep, it was crazy.
All right. Well, what do we feel about this whole move in general? So Don,
I think it'll be good. Assuming that it happens, I think it'll be good for them.
Even if it's like good, I'm not sure by how much. Like it's just not really fixing problems.
But this is the thing: is like we're talking about an 8-team playoffs. So there's only 2 teams that don't make playoffs in LCS.
The Mortals, which I think is
but it's like Dignitas just has to get to be better than 100 Thieves. Like they don't need to be like a top team. Like they just need to like give themselves a chance. So like that's what you're trying to compete for. Like, do you think this allows them to compete with 100 Thieves for that 8th place spot?
Probably. I feel like as bottom tier teams, sometimes you're in like this poverty situation where you're trying to like just get to the next day. You're just trying to get to the next week where you're trying to make rent. I don't think you should be like looking at it as a poverty situation. You're in franchising. You should just look for long-term franchise players. I don't think any of the 10 players they have are franchise players for them. And if I'm Dignitas,
like
Johnson,
what we talked about earlier. Yeah, Johnson, maybe Johnson. I'm doing what we talked about before, where we're looking for talent that we can play on the team. Like look at academy, look at amateur scene, like look at potential long-term players for the team instead of doing this like whole poverty situation of like we need to make rent next month. Like it doesn't matter like what like the future for Dignitas does not change if they make playoffs. Like it really doesn't.
Sure,
the future for Dignitas changes if they find a franchise player going into 2021. It doesn't like what difference is playoff going to make for them?
I mean, it's just like it just gets perception better, and then obviously for like sponsors and stuff, it's good if you're at least making playoffs.
Nothing like honestly, like sponsors don't look at that shit. Like they look at other numbers. Yeah, it's such a minuscule part. Like, did you make playoffs or not?
I mean, it's just more how you market yourself to the sponsor when you put together your presentation, rather than like it actually being impactful.
Made playoffs in 2020 summer, 8th place.
Yeah, that's what matters.
And say part of LCS, part of the biggest league, part of the part of the biggest esports league. Like that's what you say. You don't talk about like making playoffs. People don't give a fuck about playoffs. Like just look for long-term franchise players, Dignitas. Like
unless you brand yourself as a winner. I guess if you're branding yourself like TSM used to, they're like, yeah, we win everything, and then they stop winning, and now
they're going from 8 to 7, like or 9 to 8. Like you're not really branding yourself as a winner. You're branding yourself as a very like slightly less mediocre,
less loser.
Yeah,
give us your money.
I'm not even like joking, by the way. I really think they should just be like, fuck this split and look for long-term players and play them in LCS.
I actually think that's a good take. I think that's a good take.
But where are they gonna find them? Like right now, like how do you get like when people are under contract?
Poach from amateur.
Dignitas next.
Poach from academy. Like teams will sell their academy players if it means they get an LCS starting spot and they get a buyout.
Yep.
I guess. I'm interested in why a team doesn't just burn it all down and build it back up. Like we were talking about
literally doing that.
The 2017 relegation that you played in, Loco, right? Steve had to do everything in his power to make sure Team Liquid didn't relegate in that game, and then sold the whole roster. Everyone was gone, right? Everyone was gone when he had the opportunity to sign that brand new Team Liquid squad. Why does another team do that with? Like make another super team? It feels like, all right, we've got our 3 parts and now we've got to fill it in with money, Stunt, and Ryoma.
No. Steve, Jack, and Reggie are very, very unique in terms of how slim or like how sleek their organization is. So let's say for like an org like Golden Guardians, that's an org that we work for. I felt like I had the most game knowledge, or I feel I had the most game knowledge. For me to make that decision, it goes me, and then it goes Hunter, the head of esports above me, and then it goes to Golden State Warriors, and then Golden State Warriors okays, it goes to Hunter, and then we make the decision. Like there's so much back and forth. Andy, Jack, or Steve, they want to get a player, they feel like it's going to be worth it. Done. Andy or Steve wants to buy out Double Lift, like it's done. Like Andy wants to get Double Lift back, like it's done. Like those people at the top, like that's what makes Cloud9, TSM, and TL so unique. It's like their CEOs have some game knowledge and has all the decision-making power. The other teams don't. Like EG, like their analyst, their coach wants to make a decision. There is like an order of operations that has to get done for that decision to be made. Like, and it works that way for majority of the teams.
Yeah, you got to get to La Pointe. All right. Anyway, that was a bad one. I was on fire today. I thought that one would pop off. It did not.
But, I mean, that's why like they don't burn it down. Like, because you have to convince like the people up top like to burn it down and to also give you the money after like failing to go at it again.
Yeah, makes sense.
Other thing I want to note for week 3, CLG is 4-2, and they did get a quality win. Dom, I think you made a good point. They were beating up on crappy teams at the beginning of week 1 and 2, but then they got a quality win this week. 4-2, sitting at the top or second to top because alphabetical order. Have we changed our stance on CLG at all? Have we at least softened a little bit?
I think that they're like, so I don't think they're bottom tier. I think they're probably just like middle of the pack. Like I think that they're going to be like 5th or 6th now. That's how I see it, because I think I have no faith in 100 Thieves. I have no faith in Dignitas, Immortals, and then I think that they could potentially like outcompete like Golden Guardians as well. So they'll probably be 6th in my mind.
Logo.
CLG games were so forgettable. They had like a close game versus. Oh, no, they beat 100 Thieves. That was like the game they should have lost, right? Let me go back and look at the picks. So, oh yeah, it was the 6A. Okay, it was 6A on Israel. Ugh. How did I feel about this game? 6A Israel, Pobelter. I felt like Pobelter was decent. I don't know. I don't have like strong feelings on CLG one way or the other.
What was their quality win over 100 Thieves?
I guess it was Golden Guardians, but yeah.
I mean, okay, so
their games are so forgettable. I have to go back and check like games to remember them.
Well, I was just trying to think about who they still have not beat any team that's considered remotely
above
decent,
them.
Right?
So you think they've beaten all the teams that they're going to win, and they're about to lose like 4 in a row?
Yeah.
I guess we could look at their schedule.
I think they're going to lose to Team Liquid, EG, FlyQuest, C9.
Wait, didn't they already lose to FlyQuest?
Yeah, they lost to FlyQuest. That was game 1. Ruin showed up as Scrim Ruin, but Pobelter went 0-5 on Galio, I believe. They've got Cloud9, Team Liquid, and TSM to close out. To
Cloud9, TL, TSM. Yeah, I think they'll lose all 3.
one thing that's weird about CLG for me is they had like players that were very fucking good at times, and now are just all mediocre. Like Ruin was like a top 3 top laner when he initially started. Wiggly used to be one of the most promising NA junglers. Pobelter won so much on CLG and TL. Stixay won on CLG. Smoothie used to be really good on C9. Was pretty decent on TSM. Like, I don't know, but they just don't get most out of their players. And even now, like with the placement they have, I feel like this is not them getting the most out of their players. As we talked about, like they're not beating people up above them, and they're beating like kind of the dysfunctional teams below them.
Yeah, I mean, it's still an improvement over last split, so I guess you got to take it.
Yeah. That's always going to get. Sounds like Coach CLG Loco Doco coming at you sometime.
Hell
soon.
No. I wanted to talk about it earlier, but I've had like coaching talks, like not offers, like people like asking me, hey, are you interested again? Like the conversation comes up. And the one thing that always comes back to me in my mind is I talk about how people aren't passionate about their jobs, and like there's people collecting checks. I don't feel passionate enough about League of Legends. I don't feel passionate enough about LCS or coaching to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to be like all in on this. I'm going to spend 14 hours a day on this. Like, and I think like that's how it should be for positions like head coach and positions like starting players. Like you should be like loving your job. You should be willing to put the 14 hours in.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right.
See that in EU.
Any final thoughts?
Any final thoughts about CLG? When I think CLG, I don't think any of their players. I think about Pobelter's girlfriend making thirsty tweets on Twitter about anytime Pobelter plays.
That's so weird to me. I can't believe that he's comfortable with that. Like,
he's comfortable.
Dude, what do you like? If you're in Pobelter's position, what do you do? Like, do you tell your girlfriend, hey,
100%. I would 100% be like, yeah, like don't say that you want me to like rail you
in mid lane?
Yeah, in mid lane. Yeah, like that would make me uncomfortable. I mean, it's him. If that doesn't make him uncomfortable, that's fine. But I just think it's kind of like a weird look because she's kind of associated with the team, like in a way, right? Like when you're a player's girlfriend, you have to kind of like you kind of represent the player in a way. So,
how do you feel, Daniel?
I think that he's very secure in his relationship, and if they're fine with that, they're fine with that. But
that's not the question.
But I think if I was still,
how do you think it looks?
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say. I thought you were gonna change it to. How would you feel if that was the tweet that was coming out at you? Well, sure, let's rail down mid lane. I think if I'm the org, I just wouldn't retweet it. You maybe you say something to Pobelter, but that is a personal matter, and it's not necessarily shining a terrible light down on CLG. It's disassociated enough. It's not creating a social disturbance. It's not hate speech or anything like that. They're just really out there in their relationship and comfortable and share that.
I think as long as Pobelter is fine with it, like I guess no harm done, but it's just weird in terms of like optics. Like, it's just weird.
Yeah, that's fair. So week 3 in the books. There was a lot that happened, and we get to see some new players get an opportunity. Good luck, Pume, whatever. We'll hear how to say your name on the broadcast soon. Guys, heck of a week. Excited to see how things turn up. Any final thoughts before we close things out?
Are you guys more excited for LCS than past seasons, or less excited?
I mean, obviously less excited. I don't think anyone's gonna be more excited when the league looks like how it looks now.
Yeah, it's been a really weird year. Like, I feel like weird split. I feel like I should be way more invested into some of the storylines, like Team Liquid, TSM.
Well, I mean, I think it's also that it's just online. Like the fact that it's online just makes it less hype.
I think the online shift has slowed down production and slowed down not only production quality, but also slowed down the amount of content that is able to be created around everything. I think that's part of it, as well as it was more exciting to see, wow, there's going to be an 8-team playoff and it feels like everyone's going to be worth. And it's more like, man, we're just focusing on how many teams are not worth that 8th place spot. Like that part feels bad. When you look over at the pond, over at LEC, it feels like they've got a competitive 10-team rotation, or there's storylines everywhere.
It's a little thing for me. It's like Obli being missing, Chat being missing. Like, they're just something like that doesn't get me as excited for this LCS than it has in like the past. Like, this is the least excited I've been for LCS ever.
Yes, but I don't think you can counter those points that they're missing. I think the ease of the transition would have been easier if it wasn't an online broadcast, and they're kind of missing some of their full firepower. They don't have the full firepower to cover for it. But yeah, I agree. Something's missing, but Teams are still there. Teams are still pumping out. CLG got it right. Immortals still trying to figure it out, and Dignitas still searching for their first win.
I mean, even like the C9 stuff. Do you guys remember when Immortals was really dominant? It was like boring in a sense, right? Like one team is winning everything. Like one team is just crushing it.
Honey Smash, yeah.
Yeah, that was more exciting. Like that Immortals roster was somehow more exciting to me than this C9 roster is. And this C9 roster, I think, is doing way more incredible things than that old Immortals roster did.
Well, I think it was just because of like their competition. Like there was actually other people that were competing. So it's like when you have the Immortals roster crushing it, you also had teams like that were like, okay, well, Immortals is looking really good right now, but CLG is like also up there, and they're the ones that like won last split. So let's see how they actually do. And then just the way that Immortals would like win games, and also like that, I think that later on that year is when it turned into best of 3. Whereas like they would still drop games sometimes, and then like you'd have 2 teams that were super dominant. So you had like TSM that were 17-1, and then Immortals that were 16-2. So you had like a power struggle there that made it exciting.
Yeah, I agree. So I think it was just more of the competition at the time made it seem like it was more exciting. Right now, it just feels like it's a one-horse race, and everyone else is trying not to be last, or one-horse race, then everyone else, and then the teams that are trying not to be last. Like that never feels good. But we'll get back at it next week. Week 4 will be in the books. Same time, same place. We'll catch you guys next time. Thanks. See ya.